This is how I created the artwork for my Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny parody. The first thing I did was take the original poster by Tony Stella. He did the official poster for the movie. And looking at the artwork, I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity for me to get out of my comfort zone and try something different. As a cartoonist, I'm always relying on my lines to convey the artwork. This doesn't have any lines. It's all forms and shapes and lighting and textures. It's letting the paint be paint. You're not hiding the medium. So I thought this would be a great way for me to learn things. One of the reasons why I do this kind of stuff is so that I can educate myself. And so this is like going to school for me. And I learned a lot from this project that I created for myself because I'm really, really busy, but I just can't stop learning. And this stuff helps the other stuff that comes along, the real stuff that I'm doing for clients. It's all related. So I looked at this poster, and when I'm doing a parody, I don't just take characters and put them in different costumes and call it a day. There has to be a context to it. There has to be a joke or a pun or a play on words or some reason for it. It can't just be putting the characters in different costumes. For example, I did one for Star Wars The Force Awakens, and I had Miss Piggy as Rey, and so I decided to call it Sty Wars The Pork Awakens. So not only is the joke in the artwork, it's also in the title. I did one of the Big Lebowski using Ralph the dog. I called it the Big Bowowski. I did one of The Walking Dead with Fozzie as Rick Grimes. I call it the Waka Waka-ing Dead. So to me, I don't go forward unless I have that joke there, that context. And so in the case of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, I could have just said Indiana Kermit and the Dial of Destiny, or Adventure Frog and the Dial of Destiny, and just called it a day and just did it. But I wanted to push it a little further. I thought there was something in Dial of Destiny, some sort of rhyme, some sort of reference, something that would have sold the joke. And I really, really struggled with it. I struggled with it to a point that I almost didn't end up doing it at all. I could not come up with something. And then one day I'm sitting with my son Oliver, and we were talking about the new Electric Mayhem series that's coming out on Disney Plus. And the story is the Electric Mayhem, the Muppet Band, comes to the realization that they haven't actually recorded an album in 40 years. And so the premise of the show is that they're going to make their first record album. And I went back and I looked at Tony Stella's artwork, and I saw that circle behind Indiana Jones's head. And I went, well, that's the Dial of Destiny. That's the MacGuffin that he's looking for in this movie. And I looked at it and I went, wait a minute, it's round like a record. Maybe Indiana Jones is looking for a record, the Electric Mayhem record. And then I thought of the Dr. Teeth logo, or one of the logos. It's got the mouth with the teeth and the gold tooth on it, and that smile. And then I went, oh, smile, the smile of destiny. And it all came into place. And I went, oh, I got it, a eureka. I had my eureka moment. And I said, well, I got to work on this thing fast because the show, the Electric Mayhem movies, the show is coming out and the movie is coming out as well. So I want to get this thing going. So the challenge for me here was, having not seen the Electric Mayhem show, having not seen the movie, trying to cast these characters. So I looked at the poster and I said, all right, Kermit's in the middle. That's easy. And I was going to have him holding, instead of a whip, maybe a banjo or something like that. And I went, no, that's going to take away. Let's just have him hold the whip. It's going to compete with the record behind him, because I want that to kind of be the focus. And I'll have Kermit smiling as well. Just if, some people that aren't familiar with the Electric Mayhem logo, it's still a smile. So then up Starting in the upper right-hand corner, looks like we got a bad guy up there. That can be Uncle Deadly. We got a train, and I try to think of a Muppet train, and I know in Muppets Most Wanted, Beauregard was kind of engineering this train, so I could put that train in there and have Beauregard hanging out the window. Then I've got this frowny face guy over here, also bad guy. I could put Constantine there, but I don't think Constantine's a well-known enough character, and I didn't want people to be confused by there being two Kermits in there. So I thought, well, who's a good frowny face character? Sam the Eagle. Put Sam the Eagle in there, and it looks like there's two characters behind him. I'll make that Statler and Waldorf. Down below him, I've got a little kid, or a younger character. That could be Robin. And I got kind of a fuzzy face guy. That's a good Fozzie Bear. And we got a female character there. I know that's supposed to be his niece, but the Muppets don't really have a very deep bench when it comes to female characters, so that'll be Miss Piggy. The divers I'll figure out later. The boat I'll figure out later. Then I got three characters over here on the bottom left. We've got another female character, and like I said, we don't have a lot to choose from, so let's go Janice. We've got the guy that's pointing. Well, we don't have Gonzo, so let's put Gonzo in there. And then we got a guy over here that's got kind of like a big, tall, flat top. Let's go Beaker with him. So the next thing I did was do a quick sketch. Sketching kind of just for placement. So I use that sketch as kind of the basis for the rest of it, just to get placement. And because of the kind of realism of the drawing, I wanted to look a little closer at photo references, as opposed to just doing them off the top of my head or making them more stylistic decisions like I normally do when I draw the Muppets. So I tried to get closer to what the puppets actually look like, a more photoreal looking thing. And then I started doing it. And I do all this on Clip Studio on the iPad, so this is all digital. So the first thing I did was lay in the background tones, and I started with Kermit just as kind of a proof of concept. And once I looked at that and I said, okay, I think this is going to work. I think if I can continue on with this, it's gonna be successful. And so it was kind of sticking with the color palette that Tony Stella was using, which is very orange and yellow and brown. There's not a lot of white, there's not a lot of black, and there's not a lot of cooler colors, greens or purples or blues. And as I continued, I went, you know what, I am going to introduce some green in there. Kermit's green. The orangish version looked great, but that also looks great with Harrison Ford's skin tones. Let's kind of get a little bit of Kermit's green skin tones in there too. So I continued along with the jacket and the hand. Through the title in there. Now, Mississippi Frog, Jim Henson was originally from Mississippi, Leland, and I always kind of think that that's where Kermit was born too, so I just went Mississippi Frog, since I think Frog is maybe Kermit's last name, Kermit the Frog. Started with Uncle Deadly up in the corner, kind of blocked in the train, and worked on Sam. Now, I'll tell you right now, I wasn't happy with the way Uncle Deadly looked at this point, and I was really happy with the way Sam looked. I was kind of surprised at how well I rendered him, and in fact, even when it was finished, that's still my favorite part. It kind of surprised me how good of a job I did. I was like, wow, that looks like a much better artist than me drew that. Put Miss Piggy in there, and I was looking, I said, this is really starting to kind of come together. If I could just keep this going. Then I put Robin and Fozzie in there, and then I went back and I worked on Uncle Deadly a little more, faded him back a little bit, put some texture over the top of him. and I was a little happier with him. And then I was starting down in the lower left hand corner with those characters. I was kind of blocking those in, and I'm still using that original sketch as kind of a guideline. I have it on a separate layer working digitally, and I'm using that as kind of my reference point with that. Then I worked on the whip a little bit more. I got Statler and Waldorf in there. I put Beauregard in there, and I got the record back there behind Kermit. And then I started back down working on... See, you skip around on these things because one thing affects the other thing. So you can't really start in one area, go to the next area, go to the next area, and then you're done. You got to bounce around. So as I'm working on one section, I'm stopping and going over to another section because it's all connected. So now over here I'm working on Gonzo, and I'm tweaking things here and there too. Got Beaker in there. I added more to the train. Got some of those details in there, the light, etc. Still not happy with Beauregard. He looks like he's popping out a little too much. I'm going to have to shade him a little bit. And then I got Janice, and it was time for me to figure out what to do with that boat and those scuba divers. So for the boat, I was going to use the ship from Muppet Treasure Island, but I thought that wasn't the type of boat I should be using. So then I took the boat from Muppet Party Cruise, which was this video game. So it's an obscure reference. I like putting obscure stuff in there. Stuff that little treats for people who are real fans or who are digging through this thing might find. And the scuba divers, I think, were the hardest thing for me because I haven't seen the movie yet, and I don't know who they are. I don't know if they're different characters or if they're characters that are already depicted in the poster. It seems to me, judging by their hair in the original poster, that it's the Janice and Piggy characters. But I could be totally wrong. We'll find out June 30th who those characters are. There's another diver behind them as well. So I just kind of Muppetized their proportions a little bit, shortened their arms, gave them 3 fingers. And then I thought, well, I'll just put Groucho glasses on the front of their masks. And that'll make it Muppety enough, probably. It's a pretty small detail, too. So that's about the best I could do with it without seeing the movie. Continuing along, just adding more details, working on the whip a little bit more. And then I added, there's a couple Muppet fish around the scuba divers. You can't really see them too well, but if you had a bigger version or a print of this, you'd be able to see it. And working on a little bit more of the background, the textures, the buildings, the whip. Still working on that whip. Getting characters like Fozzie and Robin more rendered. And that's it. We're all done with it. So it's the kind of thing where I could continue working on it if I wanted to and obsess over it. But I think that sometimes it's best to just finish it. Even though it's not done, it's at least finished. And get it out there in the world for people to see. Or, just finish it so you can move on to the next thing. So like I said, this is different style than what I'm used to working in. And I'd do this again because I learned so much from it. It's not terribly cartoony. And cartoony is my favorite way to work. But it relates to everything else that I do. So this has informed decisions that I've made since then on things like lighting and texture and composition and things like that. So I think if you're an artist, I would encourage you to step out of your comfort zone, do things you wouldn't normally do things that you're uncomfortable with, and it will help you, and you'll see the benefit of it. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.